The Mystery of the White Mare. "Martha, I'm so glad you invited me to come watch you ride," said Genevieve. The tall, thin, light-haired, blue-eyed girl smiled reassuringly at her nervous friend. "You took riding lessons when you were little, right?" Martha questioned. "Yes, but nothing like jumping or polo," her friend responded. They walked into an enormous red pole barn. Barrels, cones, and poles were stacked against the walls. An office and a large tack room filled with saddles, bridles, and other gear completed the view. A tall white fence stood across the opening to a large indoor arena, with aisles of horse stalls leading off it. Walking toward the office, Martha cracked open the door and peered in. "Emily, this is Genevieve. She's come for a day at the barn." The manager gave Genevieve a critical look. Genevieve wore a full jean skirt and a three-quarter length shirt, which was blue. Black rubber muck boots were on her feet, and her hair was in a braid. "Nice barn look. The skirt's impractical, though. Too fancy, and it'll snag on things." "Thank you for your concern. I appreciate it. But I've worn skirts to the barn all my life," replied Genevieve cordially. "Will I be able to ride in the arena today?" asked Martha anxiously. "Sure," replied Emily. "Good luck." Genevieve looked at Martha as the girl strolled to Martha's horse's stall. Martha blushed. Emily's always like that with new people. She prefers everything to stay the same. Genevieve raised her eyebrows. "All right." A few minutes later, they arrived at Labyrinth's stall. Labyrinth was an ex-racehorse and had a problem with pulling on the reins. Martha rubbed the big red gelding's nose. "Lab's a nice guy, really. You just have to look past the pulling. He has a nice smooth trot and a beautiful canter." Genevieve smiled. "He means a lot to you, doesn't he?" "Yes," Martha replied gratefully. "He does." Martha tacked him up and mounted. At once he threw up his head and started to glide backwards. Martha laughed and gave him a gentle pat. "Silly boy, walk on. Come on, Lab." The horse tossed his head and continued to prance backwards. Finally, Martha gave up. She loosened the reins, and he immediately pitched forward at a very rushed canter. She gasped, flopping all over the place until he slowed down. Then he came to a full stop. Martha took a deep breath, smoothed her skirt and her hair, and gently propelled him forward. He had a beautiful trot and a smooth canter, a gliding walk and a showy stop, but there was a slight problem. He pulled on the reins, hard, at whatever pace he went, and that pulled Martha forward, which put him off balance. So his trot was sloppy, his canter was messy, and don't even mention walking or halting. "Well, he certainly has picked up a bad habit," Genevieve commented. "But I noticed that he's taken charge the whole ride, especially at the beginning." Martha nodded. "Let me guess, are you afraid of hurting him?" "Yes, why?" "You haven't kicked him or smacked him with the reins." "Yes, I have." "Not hard." "Okay, not hard," Martha sighed. "What should I do?" "By this time, you need a trainer," said Genevieve, "and I'm not it." "Sounds good. I'll start looking for one," agreed Martha. "It will be enjoyable to ride well." While Martha was unpacking Lab in his stall, she asked Genevieve to fetch a treat for him. "He did his best. He just needs a trainer," she concluded. Genevieve just smiled. Personally, she thought otherwise. "Okay, where are they?" "In the tack room, under the black saddle on the left." As Genevieve walked past some stalls to the indoor arena, she noticed a strange sight. A pale white mare, just skin and bones, was eating hay. Her stall was one big mound of manure, her buckets of water were grimy, and the nameplate at the stall door was blank. The mare retreated to the back of her stall, still chewing a mouthful of hay, when she realized Genevieve was looking at her. Genevieve located the treat bag, grabbed a peppermint, and walked back to Lab's stall. She stared at the mare again and noticed something on her hip. She could not tell what it was. Arriving at Lab's stall, she questioned Martha. "Who owns that pale white mare?" "What mare?" asked Martha. "You know, the one with the filthy stall and blank nameplate." "Oh, I don't know," replied Martha, feeding Lab the treat. "Let's go ask Emily." When the girls peered into Emily's office, they found her organizing paperwork. "Can I help you?" she asked, annoyed. "Who owns the mare with the pale white coat?" Genevieve immediately asked. "Oh, her. Sadly, there's no story." Emily leaned back in her chair and shook her head. Friends of the barn owners asked to board her for a reduced fee. They gave no requirements for her care. Occasionally, we clean the mare's stall and feed and water her. The owners are away, so I can't do much. Still, no story. "Did you notice anything strange about the mare?" asked Genevieve. "Not much," answered Emily. "Thank you," said Genevieve. While she and her friend were heading to their car, she told her friend in a low voice, "A mystery is afoot." "What a dramatist you are, Genevieve," laughed Martha. "There's no mystery." "Oh?" "It is simple. It is not our business, so I will not poke or prod." "Mm-hmm. Still, it is odd, is it not?" At this point, who cares? Besides, I need a trainer for lab. The next day, Martha introduced Genevieve to the trainer. Genevieve, this is Patrick Smith, lab's new trainer. Pleased to meet you, Mr. Smith. It's a pleasure. By the way, call me Pat. Everyone does. Pat was a kindly-looking gentleman, perhaps 52 years old. He had thick, curly white hair and a deeply tanned face. Now, I suppose Labyrinth has an unsavory behavior you wish to correct? He inquired of Martha. Yes, he's a bit stubborn about going forward from the mounting block and has a habit of pulling very, very hard, she answered. I see. Pat followed Martha to lab stall, still deep in conversation. Genevieve went over to a staff volunteer cleaning a stall. Have you heard about the white mare? Genevieve asked the lady curiously. The lady stared. What mare? The nameless horse has mysterious owners, she explained. Oh, that's old news, said the staff member disgustedly. Disappointed, Genevieve returned to where Pat and Martha were. Martha was unpacking lab. Where have you been? You missed my demonstration of lab's behavior, Martha said crossly. I'm sorry. I was trying to figure out anything more about the mare, her friend apologized. The next few days, Martha kept Genevieve busy with small chores such as cleaning saddles and measuring supplements. Finally, when the girls were driving back to Genevieve's apartment, she asked Martha, Why do you seem to be trying to keep me busy? I thought you wanted to have something to do, retorted the other defensively. I do, but you seem to be avoiding the mystery of the white mare, Genevieve replied, irritated. You don't have to be so defensive. I'm not being defensive. I just think you are making things such a big deal like they are in stories. I think that she just has forgetful owners. I'm not going to make a big deal about it. I'm just going to be content. Genevieve and Martha calmed down and agreed that they would only become suspicious if something bad happened. They would lie low, watch, and wait. Genevieve tried her best to concentrate on lab, but one can only watch a stubborn horse for so long. Then, one day, she did not need to think about the white mare. She disappeared. It was extremely sudden. One day she was there, and the next day she was not. Genevieve was instantly suspicious. Do you run cameras in the barn? She asked Emily. No, we pay a security guy to look around once in a while, she replied. And like I said, the barn owners are away. But can't you call or text the mare's owners? Asked Genevieve. No, they don't answer calls, texts, or emails, and they never came to the door of their house. Why didn't you call the police if you saw the mare wasting away? Look, I'm really leery of doing something without the owner's consent, and I can't reach them, okay? I don't want them thinking that I do a bad job. Genevieve frowned. Personally, she felt like Emily was procrastinating on purpose. Then an equally surprising event took place. A black gelding took up a residence in the mare's stall. Genevieve could have screamed in frustration. Isn't there anything you can do? She asked Emily. Actually, the owners just called. They said that the white mare was taken in an emergency, and the boarding barn owners told them they could replace the mare with the gelding. Oh, and they wanted all the stall services. They hadn't realized that the services were there before. Thank you, said Genevieve, and went to find Martha. What I don't understand is that these advertisements for the boarding barn include a sentence about stall service. Those horses are not being taken care of. I agree, but what are we to do? Call animal cruelty people? Emily seems to know what she's doing, and I don't want to get her involved with the police. Well, the only thing we can do is to stop sitting around chit-chatting about possibilities. Tomorrow, I'm checking the gelding. The next day, Genevieve wrung permission out of an unwilling Emily to inspect the horse. First, she stood by the stall, not staring at the horse, just being there. He eventually settled down. Then she cracked open the stall door, and he finally calmed down with that. All this took about an hour. The second hour was spent with Genevieve standing inside the stall while the gelding tried to escape. When he calmed down, she left. All that week, she got him used to her in his stall. Finally, after another long week, she was able to inspect him. He was skinny, but not overly so, like the mare. At his hip, she paused. A brand was burned onto his hip. It looked like a squish number 4 next to the letter A with a curve underneath it. Genevieve wondered if the white mare had the same brand on her hip. She also wondered why the barn owners would let such untrustworthy people board their horses there. Later, Emily came down with food poisoning and felt awful. Martha offered to take over secretary work while the manager left. Emily smiled gratefully and went home. Genevieve helped Martha and listened while her friend conversed nonstop about Labyrinth's behavioral progress. The phone rang. Martha picked it up importantly. Yes, how may I help? Shush! We talked about this. Come to the chicken restaurant. The message is under the first booth. Call back immediately. The phone was hung up. Martha looked at Genevieve with wide eyes. What do we do? Easy, Genevieve replied grimly. We go to the restaurant and get the message. After the barn closed, Martha drove Genevieve to her apartment. Genevieve, before she went to the building, commented about how it was a shame the restaurant was closed, and how she hoped Emily would not find out about the phone call. Doubtless it was for her. She also advised Martha to drive separately from her the next day. That morning, Genevieve dressed in a stretchy skirt and leggings and a solid shirt. She braided her hair and wore hiking boots. Who knew what she would have to do that day? Grabbing her purse, she slung it across her shoulder and picked up her keys. Locking the apartment door behind her, she breezed out to her car, a small black sedan with tinted windows. Once she got to the stables, she found Martha frantically waving at the barn door. "What?" asked Genevieve immediately. The man called again. Emily answered. She'll try to pick up the message, but a staff member started talking to her. "Hurry!" "The nearest chicken restaurant is just down the road. You drive the red car, right? Follow me." After arriving somewhat breathlessly, Martha looked around. Which first booth? She wondered. Thankfully, the staff and customers were very busy, so they did not take any notice at all. Genevieve and Martha discreetly, they hoped, checked under every table that was unoccupied. Finally, on the first table on the right of the room, they found a note. It said, 4A, and a curve. And that was all, nothing else. The same brand that was on the black horse, and probably the white one, too. "We shouldn't have snooped," began Martha, second-guessing. "It's probably just a coincidence." Genevieve had informed her about the identical signs. Genevieve would have put it back, but just then Emily walked in. Martha tucked the paper in her coat pocket, and the girls sped out. "Surely Emily has something to do with this," Genevieve told her friend. Right at that moment, Emily shot a baleful glare right at them. "That is definitely suspicious," Martha told the other girl. "Yes," she agreed. "Now I think we have a right to snoop." For a while, though, everything seemed normal. Genevieve pondered about the two signs, but continued to do all of her daily things. She tidied her apartment, worked as a secretary, and bought groceries. She baked, drove, and visited Martha. Then one day, when Genevieve arrived at the barn, Martha grabbed her arm and pulled her into an empty stall. "You won't believe this," she hissed urgently. "This morning the phone rang. When I answered it, a foreboding voice told me to stay out of circus business and to leave Emily alone. Then it hung up." Genevieve frowned. "What circus business?" "I don't know, but it scared me half to death." "Well, now we've got to leave. Can you skip a day with the labyrinth?" "We can do some research tomorrow." "No, I'll just have to let you do the research, but I'll be waiting." "Great." Genevieve started to turn away. "I can start today if you don't mind." "I don't." "Oh, and Genevieve, please be careful. I don't want you to get kidnapped or something." "Don't worry, I'll be fine." And with that, Genevieve drove off. At the library, she borrowed a computer and began to type. First, she typed circus. She got the definition of it and also some ads for animal crackers. She typed circus near me and didn't come up with much. She typed international circus, countrywide circus, funny circus, and finally circus business. Coming up with nothing helpful, she sighed and wondered if circus business was not a code word someone used. Then, in a moment of inspiration, she typed mysterious circus. Now that was interesting. Several things popped up, but what really caught her attention was an article called Circus Mysteria, held all over across the country with acts including the classic bears, elephants, clowns, and trapeze artists, but also with dogs, horses, and even pigs. But the most interesting thing about the circus was that it only stayed for one night. Traveling circuses were almost extinct, and those that remained usually stayed for a couple of days. Genevieve was intrigued. She typed Circus Mysteria to see if the real name of the circus would pop up. It didn't. Disappointed, she tried One Night Circus and came up with the Circus Mysteria article, but also an ad for the 4A circus. Genevieve scrolled down, but she didn't find behind-the-scenes descriptions that circuses usually put out. She wondered what Emily had to do with the circus. Now she had two mysteries. She needed to find out where the horses came from and why Emily was acting so suspicious. Genevieve's head started to ache. She did not know what to do. She had no more leads and time was ticking. Tired, she switched off the computer and drove home. It was now lunchtime. She made herself a cheese sandwich and carrot sticks with a glass of water and sat down to reflect. In the afternoon, she cleaned the apartment and called Martha, informing her that besides the interesting article, she had come to a dead end. Martha reassured her that everything would be fine. Genevieve did not believe her. Then the next day, she inspected the black horse again. She stared hard at the brand, feeling like she'd seen it before, but she couldn't place it. Then Genevieve remembered. The brand was the same sign as the one for the 4A circus. The pieces clicked together in her mind. What if the gelding and the mare both belonged to the circus? What if Emily also belonged to the circus? What if, for some reason, the owners themselves belonged to the circus? It all fit. There was no mystery at all. It was just one big coincidence with the circus paying the owners. Her head whirling, Genevieve stumbled out of the stall, but then a thought stopped her. What about the dirty mare and the phone calls and the note under the table? What kind, well-meaning owners steal phone numbers and call people? She went to tell Martha about her suspicions. Martha agreed. I think we should continue to be suspicious. You're right, sighed Genevieve. Then a determined look crossed her face. But whatever this is, I have a plan. What? Well, my friend, I am going to that 4A circus, and that is that. But you can't, you just can't, cried Martha later that day. Genevieve had given her a ride to her apartment and had taken a suitcase down from a shelf and was now determinedly throwing articles of clothing down into its deep recesses. Think of your job. I can call off for a few days, answered the obstinate Genevieve. They trust me. Well, they probably shouldn't. Think of me. I'll be lonely. You'll get along fine, countered her friend. Why are you even going? Moaned Martha. You know perfectly well. I suspect they are mistreating the animals from the condition of the horses, and I want to know if Emily, the barn owners, and the shady circus are connected. Well then, that's settled. I'm going with you, Martha firmly concluded. You need me. Thank you, I most certainly do. Genevieve paused in her labors to throw her arms around her friend. Then Martha went home to pack. The girls pooled their money and bought tickets to the current location of the circus. After a few hours, the plane landed. Genevieve and Martha fought through the airport crowds and found their luggage. With a rented car, they set off. A couple hours down the road, they stopped for supper and a short break. Once they had sufficiently stretched their legs, they hopped back into the car and headed on. When they reached the circus, they bought tickets and popcorn and sat down to watch. Out came cavorting pigs, dogs walking on their hind legs, and beautiful horses. Ladies riding those beautiful horses, trick-trained elephants and bears, sporting clowns and swinging trapeze artists. With a flash of music and a shower of smoke, the performance was gone. They got a standing ovation. Genevieve stayed seated. Martha, half up and half down, looked at her, puzzled. Why don't you clap? She whispered to Genevieve. I noticed that the horses looked terrified and that the ringmaster actually used his whip. Shocked, Martha plopped into her seat. Genevieve got up and exited the tent. Martha followed. Handing Martha her purse, Genevieve whispered her plan. Wide-eyed, Martha nodded. Genevieve crept toward the tent, shut off to the public, and crouched in a corner. It was chaos. A clown was tangled in its costume and frantically yelling for help. A man was yelling at a trapeze artist, the bears were growling, the dogs yelping, and the horses stressed beyond belief. Among them stood the white mare, now so clean that her coat shone. She had a plume on her head and tassels on her bridle. An arthritic elephant staggered along, so sore it could hardly move, and everyone was trying to yell louder than everyone else. Then the ringmaster came in. His theatrical smile peeled off like wallpaper. His wide grin was replaced by a deep scowl, and he immediately took control of the situation. He roughly untangled the clown, shook the trapeze artist and the man, threw the dogs in their pen, and literally whipped the bears into shape, bundling them off to their cages. Then he snapped at the ladies to scoot along and get the horses tucked away. The pigs were dumped in a filthy pen, and everyone left. Genevieve crept along, seeing filth and squalor everywhere she turned. Then, as she was about to leave, she tripped over a cord. Lights flipped on. Animals made a racket. Genevieve ran. She ran blindly, making for the entrance, but a clown grabbed her arm. A furious, puffing ringmaster was there beside him. Wriggling out of his grasp, she dived for an opening, but the ringmaster sidestepped, clutched her wrist, and promptly dragged her a few feet and threw her on the ground. Trapeze artists, clowns, animal handlers came to see what all the ruckus was about. Genevieve was hauled to her feet and slammed against a wall. Eyes flashing, Genevieve gave her captor a hard kick that loosened his grip considerably. She ran for it, ducking, dodging, and diving. She zipped from side to side, but eventually was tackled and pinned in place. "Throw her in that stallion's stall!" roared the ringmaster. Genevieve was pitched into the stall of a large and rather surprised-looking spotted stallion stall. Picking herself up, she just had time to collect her wits and notice that the horse was intent on injury. He advanced one step, pinned his ears, and screamed loudly in her face. He reared up and was about to deliver a crushing blow to her head when the clowns pounded on the door to encourage him to smash her to pieces. The stallion twisted his body, whirled around, and dealt the door a mighty blow with his hind feet. The door burst. Genevieve ran through and was about to try her luck at escaping again when a low, loud, professional voice stopped everyone in their tracks. "You are under arrest." Gaping, the prisoners stared at the handcuffs clasped on their wrists, staring numbly about. The stallion stayed in his stall, watching. The opening that Genevieve could slip through, he could not. He bided his time patiently. The criminals were taken to the police office, while the animals were provided for. Genevieve and Martha stayed to testify against the wicked circus gang. A few weeks later, everything was worked out. The animals went to zoos and sanctuaries to be rehabilitated. The dogs went to shelters. Martha adopted one, a lovable pug with huge brown eyes. The owners and Emily all got in trouble and confessed that when the circus horses got too worn out, they were sent to the barn. Unfortunately, it was cheaper to occasionally feed the horse instead of constantly giving her hay. When Genevieve and Martha got too close for comfort, they tried to scare them. They failed. And when Emily was asked why she'd so conveniently come down with food poisoning, she admitted that that had been real. Never again would she eat an old ham sandwich. Martha found a new, better boarding barn, and Labyrinth overcame his habit of pulling, while Martha became a better rider. The end.